Welcome to the tutorial for 5.2, Escape from Echo Base. This is a very movement-heavy level with complex 1B2C and some difficult skips. We've given this level a difficulty rating of 6 and an RNG rating of 2. Goal times are important due to the low RNG rating, making it an important level to consistently practice. Let's begin. There are two different ways to play this first room that vary depending on how many players were called in at the end of 5.1. For the beginner one-player strat, start by spamming jump rolls out of the cutscene towards the center of the door. Once the pieces fall, build the bomb with Han, then run towards the right and shoot Leia once you are far enough away to not die from EBB. The splash damage should break the bomb, and once the explosion fades, spam 3 jump rolls and then stop rolling. Fire a couple shots to kill the snowtroopers, and then do 2 more jump rolls to get to the bomb. Once the build completes, you can spam attack and the bomb will explode, revealing the door to the next room. For the advanced 2-player strat, begin by spamming jump rolls out of the cutscene with Han towards the center of the door. Once the pieces fall, build the bomb as early as possible with Han and move Leia on P2 here. Shoot the boxes on the left with Leia as Han is building, and then move Leia so that she is facing forwards and centered within this section of the wall here. It's also important that she is roughly in line with this line on the ground here. Too far in front of this line and she can die when the bomb blows up. Once Han finishes building, move to the right side of the door and run into it. Then fire a shot with Leia while the completed bomb begins falling in the air. Jump roll with Han immediately so that he bonks his head on the door like this. Follow with Leia, but wait a brief moment before you begin moving so she doesn't die from the explosion. Do 2 more jump rolls with Han, and then fire a single walking shot as you turn the corner to kill 2 of the troopers, and then kill the final trooper with Leia. Do 2 more jump rolls with Han, and then build the bomb. Fire shots with Leia to destroy the bomb as soon as it is built. Reset hearts if needed, and then proceed to the next room. Regardless of how many players you have called in at the start of this room, do 2 jump rolls with Han and then a single jump to get behind the bomb and push it into its place. Kill the 2 snowtroopers and then reset your heart count by shooting EBB shots. Now there are 2 different strats for this next section, so we'll begin with the beginner strat. Have player 1 Han stand on the right side of the door, and if you have Leia called in, have her on the left. Then do 4 jump rolls with Han once the door opens, staying close to the wall on the right. After the 4th jump roll, do 2 delayed jump rolls with a blaster shot in the middle of each. Here you only need 2 well-timed shots to kill all of the snowtroopers. You can also fire a couple extra shots here to destroy this back gate, which will be helpful later if you're doing this beginner strat. You can also do this with Leia if you have her called in. Turn the corner and fire 2 more shots to destroy the boxes in your way. Make sure to not shoot too many times that you blow yourself up. If there is still a box in your way when you get to the door, you can move right up against the box and fire a single shot to immediately destroy it without the EBB explosion that would normally kill your player. Immediately do a jump roll into the room and start building the bomb cart. The turnstile isn't pushable right away, so you can use this downtime to reset hearts on player 1 with an EBB shot against a wall. At this point, call in player 2 if they're not already, and push the turnstile. Put a player here next to the door in the center of this light circle on the ground. This will cause the cart to push you into the next room and skip the camera pan. Calling in player 2 here is important, since if you don't, your players will get teleported back when the camera pan starts to play. Jump roll out of the transition and shoot the gate if it is still there. Place Leia in this corner by the rocks, and Han just to the right of the wall here. Time a shot with Han onto Leia when the cart gets here, so she gets iframes for the explosion. If you time this late enough, she will spawn inside the explosion instead of being pushed back by it. Once she respawns, move left with her and move Han far enough left so that you can see 3PO. Once she gets past the door frame and you see 3PO start to move, drop out player 2 and head here with Han. Pan the camera up and drop in P2 once you are about to hit this wall, then switch player 2 to 3PO and use the panel to enter the next room. The advanced strat for this section uses Boom Skip, a difficult strat done to skip rescuing 3PO by clipping out of bounds with the bomb cart. It's very precise and only recommended for advanced runners. When at this door, make sure both players are called in and perform a double swap to get Han onto your keyboard player. This next bit of movement is the exact same as with the other strat, just your players will be swapped. When you enter this room, Leia is actually going to be the player to build the cart, while Han moves down left until he's in this corner of the track on the ground. As soon as the bomb is complete, drop out Leia, and then after the camera moves over, hold directly left with Han until he's at the wall. This should put him in about this spot. From this point, you only have about 3 seconds to get Han in the pixel perfect position before the cart arrives to clip him out. There are a couple different visual cues you can look at here, but the best one is the top of his right arm. You're going to be looking at the gap between this part of his arm and the line above. If you are too low, you can simply tap straight left and that will very slightly move you up. If you are too far up, move down and then tap left once again to move up into the perfect spot. The most important thing to note here is that Han has a slight idle animation. His arm will move up and down slightly as he stands here. You should pay attention to where his arm is at the top of the animation. The ideal position is when there is about 1 or 2 pixels of space between his arm and the line when at the top of the animation. If the pixels touch or overlap, you are too far up and Han will pop on top of the cart. And if there are too many pixels between the two, Han is too far down and he will pop down like this. Now, one really weird thing to note about this trick is that there is actually another clip frame slightly above the top miss frame. Here's an example of that miss frame. Han is slightly too high here and the lines are very slightly intersecting. As you can see, we get the miss case where Han pops on top of the cart, meaning that we were too far up. However, if you're in this position and you very slightly tap left to move up until the lines are overlapping slightly more, this frame will actually work to clip Han out as well. Now, this frame is way more precise than the lower set of frames, so it's always recommended that you aim for those, since there are a few different frames there that all work when you have that slight gap between the lines. Really, the only case where this might be useful knowledge is if you're running out of time to set Han up and the lines are just barely intersecting, and a very slight tap left could move you up into this other clip frame just in time. But in general, aim for the lower ones. Another thing to note is if you play on a higher resolution than 1080p, there will be, of course, more pixels here. But the same principles apply. Avoid the lines touching or overlapping, and avoid too much space in between. An alternative visual cue that is less consistent but some find to be easier to set up is to look at this part of Han's left shoulder here. If the point where the dark blue section and the light blue section meet is 1 pixel below this gray line, then you are in a pretty good position to get clipped out. After you clip out of bounds, do a jump roll up left and then hold up and then quickly switch to upright. With this specific movement, you will fall through a hole in the floor to get fully out of bounds. Continue to hold exactly upright until the camera pans to this point. Then start heading up towards the door. When Han passes the turret pieces, go neutral for a split second, call in P1, and move to this spot. If you try to call in too early, you risk reloading the previous room. Try panning the camera left here when you drop Leia in so it doesn't pull Han off course. Once you're past the door with Han, jump up so that you pop up behind it, and then drop him out when he hits the ground to set up a super jump. Wait a second before moving to the door, and then once you hear Han jump or see his character model stuck in the door, press tag to switch to him and hit the transition. Boom skip can be tricky since you have very little time to set it up before your first attempt. If you do end up missing boom skip on the first try, hitting it second try will still save roughly 2 seconds. The increased downtime allows you to have more time to set up the trick, and if you're confident in the visual cue, it can be worth it to go for it again. Getting Han into the pixel perfect positioning in such a short amount of time will be tricky at first, but with practice, it can become very consistent. Similarly to Camino, Echo Base also has an incrementing loop counter that can cause gizmo softlocks in Cloud City Trap and Betrayal over Bespin. If this happens in Cloud City Trap, you can back it up with a super jump in that level. However, if this happens in Bespin, it is a true softlock and you will have to restart the level to continue. The loop counter is constantly incrementing in this level, waiting for this cart to be built. Once the cart is built, the loop counter stops and will only increment once every time the cart passes the junction. This incrementing starts as soon as you start Echo Base, and the value loops at a frequency of 4.27 seconds. The ranges are slightly different between CCT and Bespin, so it's good to be aware to ensure you don't build in a danger zone. Assuming you entered the level quickly, try to not start building the bomb at any of these split times. 114.9 to 115.4, 119.1 to 119.6, and 123.4 to 123.8. This likely won't happen if you're executing the beginning of the level well, but for newer runners it may be more likely to hit one of these ranges, making it important to be cautious of these times. Do 2 jump rolls with Han upon entering this next room, and call in player 2 if they aren't in already, switching them to 3PO. 3PO is the bottleneck in this room, so focus on taking a good line to this corner, staying on the icy floor to get him there faster. As you make your way over with Han, start spamming jump shots to kill the troopers on the other side and blow up these center boxes, as the one on the right contains a power-up. Make sure the boxes are on screen before you hit them to reduce the chance of the power-up despawning. Don't collect it right away though, as we want to collect it right before it disappears so that we can have it further into the room. Kill the rest of the troopers, making sure not to shoot this mini kit on the right side of the room to avoid this small cutscene. Once all the troopers are dead, jump roll to catch up with 3PO. There are 2 methods to push 3PO up the corner. The easier method is just to use this box to push 3PO up the left edge. If you do fail to get 3PO up, you can simply push the box down, right, up, and try again. The harder but slightly faster method is to use a 2-player height boost by lodging 3PO into the corner. Hold up with 3PO and jump into him with Han so that Han's feet hit 3PO's head. Make sure you are perfectly in line with 3PO when jumping. Once 3PO gets pushed up, jump up with Han, destroy the grate containing the panel, and build it. Use the panel with 3PO and jump roll with Han once the door opens. Tap left with 3PO and switch to Leia as she walks by. Being fast here with Han is critical if you want to utilize the power-up for fast build on the bomb and invincibility when the bomb explodes. If you reach the bomb after the power-up has started blinking, the power-up will run out before you can hit the transition, so make sure to move out of the way with Han before you shoot it to avoid a death. Once again, there are 2 ways to play this next room. For the beginner strat with 1 player, spam jump rolls to the left side of the room, then head up this hill staying close to the right side for an optimal line. To hit all 5 buttons without having to go all the way up again, you're going to want to take an intentional death by rolling off the hill to the left just before you touch respawnable ground at the bottom. Aim for the first button, then curve up left to hit these 2 middle buttons and fall off the edge. If done correctly, you should respawn at the top. You can then just jump dive and roll down to hit the other 2 buttons. Now, if you do respawn at the bottom, you likely turned left too late and hit respawnable ground, in which case you'll have to go all the way back around to the top. For the advanced strat with both players, take a tight line with both players around the edge and pull Leia's gun out if it's not out already. Make sure that when you go up the hill, you are always jump rolling with Han so you don't slow down. Once you get to the top, you're going to hit the 3 buttons you always hit with Han, but you're going to hit the last 2 with Leia instead. Han is the bottleneck in this room, so don't rush it with Leia here. If you see that you missed a button with Han, you can back it up by hitting it during her slide down, or by doing the same respawn strat as the beginner route. You can skip the camera pan here by timing Leia's roll. To do this, wait for Han to begin his first jump roll at the bottom of the hill, and then begin your slide down with Leia. Once again, Han is the bottleneck here, so waiting a bit with Leia does not lose time. Do a second jump roll with Han, and then start running towards the right side of the door. Once you see Leia about to hit the last button, do a final jump roll with Han to hit the transition during the camera pan. Now make sure you do aim for the right side of the door, since you can hit your head on the icicle on the left side. For the beginner 1-player strat in this next room, spam jumps with Han upon entering it, and then shoot the boxes on the right, followed by the boxes on the left. Push this box forward, and once it's fully on the button, jump and stand on the left button. Wait for your characters to step on the remaining buttons before jump rolling to the end of the room. For the advanced strat, shoot with player 2 immediately after the screen wipe begins, and spam jump rolls with Han. Leia's shot should blow up the far left box, and then you'll want to shoot the closer boxes with her shortly after. Ideally, this shot will blow up 3PO and kill him, halting his progress in the room, which will cause him to be closer to the buttons. While you're doing this, push the box forward with Han, and then jump onto the left button. Here it's very important that you step on the button with Han first and then with Leia, as doing it the other way around will confuse 3PO about which button to pick. If he does this, simply step off the buttons with all players before getting back on with Han first. It's worth noting here that the buttons stay pressed for a small amount of time after you jump off, so if you time it correctly, you can actually begin moving forward with Han before your final player steps on the 4th button. Once the door opens, continue down the hallway with both players, and enter the final room. For beginners here, spam jump rolls with Han upon entering the room, and then head up towards the power-up. After grabbing the power-up, start firing shots towards these generators on the wall, keeping the shield up. You can aim a shot to the left first to blow that one up, before destroying the right one on your way there. Once both have been shot and the shield is down, jump onto the remains of the right generator. Here you're going to perform Falcon Jump, a well-spaced double jump to get on top of the Falcon with Han. Your first jump off the generator will be straight up, and then your second jump will be straight left, with this jump timing. The most common way of failing this is not holding up enough and being too far in front, so make sure you space your jump enough. Head up to the pieces on top and build them before heading to the ground to do this final build. Then enter the Falcon to end the level. For advanced runners, take this same line with Han towards the power-up on the right. While doing this, shoot with Leia towards the left generator, killing any troopers in your way. Shoot the right side generator with Han as he's making his way over, and then do Falcon Jump the same way. Move towards the build with both players, building the top turret with player 1, and the bottom door with player 2. Once they are completed, move Leia into the Falcon after the camera pan to end the level. This concludes the Echo Base tutorial.